Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 712 on the eve of Agile 2022. I'm Tom Cagley, your host, recording remotely. Jim Benson has a new book titled The Collaboration Equation. Jim states that collaboration is the base of the human condition. We need other people in order to live, but always seem to be at odds with each other. Jim also states that unless you're striving for improvement, you're unprofessional. I really like talking to Jim. Jim is a force of nature. Jim's career has taken him through government agencies, Fortune 10 companies, and startups. He's also the author of Personal Kanban, link in the show notes, and Why Limit WIP, which we reread just recently on the Software Process and Measurement Cast blog. Check that out. He is a noted expert in business process, personal work management, and the application of lean to personal work and life. Jim believes that the best process is the least process necessary to achieve goals. Are you ready to collaborate? It's time for the interview. Jim Benson, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast again.
Thanks, Tom. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it is. It is good. Well, it's good to actually see you. It's good to talk to you. We've all survived at least the last couple of years since we last talked.
Yep. All things considered, I'd rather be doing this in Malmo, Sweden, but there you go.
Yeah. Well, that was not probably not for the podcast. There were some unhappy times in Malmo at the time. That was election night.
That's right. That was election night. Yep. It was also I remember while I was there, I got woken up and my phone started buzzing and I was like, there's only one reason why my phone will be buzzing.
Yeah. There are pluses and minuses to everything. So Yeah, Malmo was great. You've got a new book coming out, The Collaboration Equation. It makes the case that, collaboration is critical. Why is collaboration critical? Come on, I'm an individual. My whole world is an individual. We'll work all individually, right?
That's right. Rugged individualism wins the mowing of the lawn, maybe. but almost nothing else. So I've noticed over 56 years of running around and doing things that every successful project I've ever been part of has been highly collaborative. Every successful team, highly performing team that we want to build is highly collaborative. That doesn't mean that they, just have a Kanban or that they pull their own work or that they get to be, crafts people. It means they're actually professionals and they pay attention to the work. They pay attention to each other. They pay attention to the customer. All those things are relationships. All those things are collaboration.
Collaboration, I probably can have many meetings to lots of different people. How are you defining collaboration for the book?
So I am defining collaboration as individuals working in teams to get things done, to provide quality, to provide value. And I find that Agile looks a lot at teams, Lean takes a lot of look at value, and neither of them relate them to anything else. And no one thinks of the individual. We just assume that the individual is okay.
Well, the individual is just a fungible cog in the wheel, right? No, I'm kidding. Obviously, we don't want that to be true. So if we define collaboration that way, and that is that critical, why are we discussing that in 2022? Why isn't this just par for the course? Why is this so hard to achieve?
Oh, man. You asked the best questions. So there's a million reasons why we naturally collaborate and we naturally resist collaborating. We wouldn't be anywhere if we didn't collaborate. We'd all still be eaten by wild animals on a regular basis. So at some point there needed to be like that basic collaboration of you pick the berries and I'll watch for the human eating animal. When my grandparents first settled in Nebraska, my great my great great grandparents. They, built a house out of sod and then, created their farm, but they didn't just do it with the two of them. There were other landowners around them that when they needed to raise a barn or something, everybody got together and did that. And it's not just because many hands make light work. It's also because many hands design better barns. You get to pull on the expertise of the people around you. But as people, we also resist change. And anytime we work with another person, it feels like change. There are unknowns in there. We don't know how they're going to react to things. And when we pair on stuff, do pair programming stuff like Kent taught us so many years ago, we all seem to really love it. And then a month later, we all forget that pair programming exists.
True.
So it's like exercise. You have to build the system to make sure that you keep participating.
How would I recognize good collaboration if I saw it? I mean, I think I've done it before, but how would I recognize it?
How would you recognize when you're collaborating?
Yeah, well, a good collaboration. I mean, there's, some stuff that feels like we're collaborating, but I'm not 100% sure it's great. But if I was watching 2 people or 5 people or 100 people, that would be hard. How would I know whether or not they were collaborating well?
Yeah, it's actually surprisingly easy to watch 100 people.
Okay.
The way that you know that people are collaborating well is quite simple. You don't need to know their throughput, their cycle time, their velocity, any of those things. You need to know, are you as professionals satisfied with the work that you're doing? And is the quality of the work such that your customers are not coming back saying, what the hell was that? Those are like the 2 primary metrics. So in New York, over the last several years, when we've been building skyscrapers and billion-dollar buildings, the primary metric of success is, are the people who are working on this building more satisfied with their work than they normally are? And when they were, it meant that quality had gone up. It meant that safety had improved. It meant that they felt more respected. So there are actually a whole lot of what you might call soft measurements for collaboration that have extremely tangible results.
I would suggest that most organizations aren't set up to make that happen. They're set up to make that almost not happen.
We are awesome at building systems that are anti-human and anti-collaborative. Why? Well, for a major reason is that we see human beings as little pockets of miracles where I'm going to come and I'm going to give you a piece of work and then you will do it. And if you succeed, that's great. And I can pay you. And if you don't succeed, then I can hold you accountable, or I can fire you, or I can yell at you, or I can, Mr. Spacely you. And we've built an entire mythology of project management around that. So project managers, annual reviews, all of those things are simply the reactions to the failure state of traditional project management. And it's very hard for us if we have a group of 5 people and that group of 5 people fails in whatever they're doing. It's very hard for you to yell at all 5 of them and fire all 5 of them. It's a lot less mentally taxing for us to find the person who is accountable.
Over the years, I can't probably recall all the times I've heard, we just need the single throat to step on, kind of.
Yep.
And actually heard that exact line. So even recently.
Yep. The single ringable neck, yes.
Yeah. How does a team or organization actually put collaboration into action? Can they just wave a magic wand and become collaborative? Do they just have to buy the collaboration equation to get there? How would they go about doing this?
So I wrote most of this book the day before I got on a plane to go to New York to work with Turner Construction. And I thought that the book was done. This was 5 years ago. And I got to Turner and I looked at how they were working and what they were doing. And I realized that I wasn't only there to teach them stuff, that they were going to teach me some stuff.
Oh, cool.
And when I was a junior engineer many years ago, civil engineer, I worked for a company called David Evans and Associates. And we had a slogan at David Evans and Associates that was, we hire outstanding professionals and give them the tools that they need to do an outstanding job. And DEA really meant that. It was an awesome place to work. It was a beautiful place to work. Everybody was extremely supportive of everybody else, and a ridiculously collaborative environment. We became one of the fastest growing engineering firms in the States because of that. Our quality was high, our attention to the client was high, our humanity was high. When I got to Turner, I found that same desire, and they internally dubbed this something that we have now started to socialize, is they call it the right environment. And at the beginning of any project, the team gets together and they say, what are the things that we need in order to be confident in our professionalism in this project? You know, we need this information, we need access to these resources, we need to treat each other better. On one of the projects, they wanted a dog, so they got a dog. You know, what is it that this group of individuals needs? And so that means that every project is managed slightly differently. And that's okay. First of all, because the project is $1 billion, and any software startup would be like, ha ha ha, $1 billion. They're like, oh, hey, it's another hospital project. But there's enough people working on that to make that a thing. So you set your right environment, saying these are the things that we need. You figure out what your flow of work is. So we'll do a value stream map, and then you figure out on top of that, what information do people need? How do they get it? Where is it stored? You know, all that knowledge management stuff that we used to talk about 25 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's actually important. So, you know, what happens now is when we work with software teams, especially, is they don't know where anything is. It's in Slack, and it's in Teams, and it's in Jira, and it's in Trello, and it's in email, and it's in text, and it's in WhatsApp, and it's all over the place. And Google Docs and whatnot, and everybody. And so one of the first things that we do to get to that collaborative environment is calm all the noise. And we'll look at the value stream map and we'll say, where do things fail? 9 times out of 10, they fail because we built a silo in how we work. And silos are always the absence of collaboration where collaboration is needed. Almost every agile team is a silo. Almost every agile team is broken. That's why they have dependencies.
Good point. Yeah, no, I buy the dependency thing. The whole idea of multidiscipline, cross-functional teams, all whatever set of words you want to throw at that people say those things all the time, but you're absolutely right. They almost always design silos. I sometimes like to blame that on HR, but it's probably not only HR that has to own that one. By the way, what did they do with the dog when the project was over?
What do we do with what?
What did they do with the dog when the project was over?
Oh, well, the dog theoretically belonged to the admin for that particular project. But we don't know yet because the project isn't quite done yet. It was the now named Ruth Bader Ginsburg Hospital in Brooklyn.
Oh, wicked. So if it's a really big dog, it might actually, the project may take longer than the dog. I like dogs. I think you named a couple of my next poll on this whole idea of collaboration is, so your first job, that first engineering organization that was so great and then got really big and probably still was great. What are the disruptors that occur that take either teams or organizations out of that zone where they have the right environment?
You said like what will destroy a right environment?
Yeah.
That's every change agent's daily life. So almost, I would imagine a lot of people who are listening to this are coaches or, internal or external. And as a change agent, one of the most frustrating things in the world is you just finally get people doing things that are healthy for them. And then something comes along and knocks your train off the tracks. And sometimes that's changes in management. Sometimes it is just something as simple as a work tsunami, where the team takes on too much work, they're overloaded, and then the moment they're overloaded, they withdraw, start to protect themselves. They become little silos of one, and then that breaks down the collaboration and the communication internally. So the inability to control the work in progress for the team is always going to be a big one. Shifts in focus. Any external shift in focus where the team is focused, they're rolling in one direction, then all of a sudden either there's a corporate change or a client change or a technology change that makes them go do something else. There is a sense of loss that you have from losing the thing that you were focused on, even if you're psyched about the new thing. And that is also a psychological barrier for kind of the continuity that you'd built up for your right environment. So the goal when you do build a right environment is to make sure that the environment itself, it isn't just like, oh, it's our culture and our culture is wonderful. But the culture is actually instantiated in the visual systems that you're using to manage your work. So you can't just have a Kanban, but you have an Obeya filled with a bunch of different visualizations that show you everything that the team needs to know. And often the things that the team needs to know are we working together well? Are we happy? Are we growing as professionals? Are we overloaded? Are we all getting time off? All of those human things should also be visualized in the visual system and maintained by the team. And then that makes that right environment much more resilient.
Outside of the two examples that you used earlier, how many times have you actually seen this in real life?
Many times. And so the question also is like, what I love about this question is what makes it, and then either what makes it resilient or what makes it, I guess resilient and practical are the two words that I would use. So one of my favorite projects, and I think I've talked to you about it before, was we had a 1-week project with the World Bank back in 2009. And we had to get 12 different researchers to write a very massive report in 1 week. And so we ended up setting a system up where initially they were pair writing. And then we set up a set of visual controls that asked them every 20 minutes, how far along are you on your outline and on your text? But the sneaky question at the end was, do you have questions for anybody else? So because they were pairing initially, they had to talk to each other. And they had to do it because we took away half the laptops, like physically put them on the other side of the room. like I'm taking your toys and you're going to have to play with the other kids. And then the second thing that we did was we did the sneaky thing of saying, okay, what questions do you have of the other people around the room? Because everybody was a subject matter expert in something else. But if you went to drinks with them, they would all claim that they were subject matter experts in everything. So they were not naturally predisposed to talk to each other. So the system that we set up rewarded that pairing that became mobbing. That lasted for exactly as long as it needed to. And then it was discarded because we ended up actually being successful at this nearly impossible task. It's one of my favorite examples because we built a system to achieve something that itself was highly disruptive and that no one in the room thought was even possible to finish.
Do solutions like that live past their context? Could that be then translated somewhere else? Did they translate that somewhere else?
So let's just think about this. Like, let's take it back into the software world. So we've taken now pair programming and we've applied it somewhere outside of software, just to show everyone on the call that software people are not special. This is just work. We're doing work together.
Oh, come on, it's magic,
the moment
Jim.
that we It's magic. Yes, that's right. I type the magic words with all the technical debt in them, with my finger bones. But but one of the things that we run into problems with all the time is that we think that software is so special that we forget to work with sales and marketing and HR and all of the other parts of the company that actually have something to say, and especially support. Like every company in the world has a support department that knows more about the product than the developers, and then they pay them less, they treat them like crap, and they never ask them what should be done next.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome collaboration opportunity right there. So that particular thing I will now take into the context of software development. So, and everyone that's listening to this, I know, has their own version of the story, probably without the solution. So we went to work with a company that had it was a company of about 1,000 people, and about 600 of them were developers. They were in a million different teams. The company itself provided a certain type of data to very specialized users. And all these teams had work. Their work was all planned independently. Board of directors, the C-level staff, everybody kept giving them different goals. And each team, just like we were talking about with individuals, each one of these teams was seen as like this individual pocket of money-making miracleness that never had to talk to another team. And naturally, it was a dependency playhouse. And those dependencies built up over time until one team finally broke. That team was their database team, arguably the core of the product. But because they saw the front end as the thing that made money, the company as a whole ignored the health and well-being of the database. Every single team in that company had a dependency or 10 that relied on the database team. So the database team had way more work than they could ever get. They didn't get any more headcount because they were a cost center and not a profit center. And after a while, they became such a bottleneck that no work could continue. So they went after the single ringable neck, which was the product owner of the database group. When we went in, we said, okay, we've actually read books. So we know Ellie Goldratt, and we know that this is a constraint. And guess what, everybody? You now work for the database group. They hated that idea. The C-level staff hated that idea. And the board of directors absolutely despised that idea. So we had to visualize the problem by showing all the work that everybody had and how basically the database group had work from absolutely everybody and nobody cared. And then we said, basically, this is a huge risk. If you don't do this, the company is going to die. And they said, all right, well, maybe. And I said, give us 1 week. And I said, you can fix this in a week? I said, no, I can convince you that this can be fixed in a week. And we can do the whole thing maybe in a month. We took everyone in the company offline and made them entirely working on what was, honest to God, an emergency for the company. And we did exactly the same thing that we did with them that we did in that 1 week at the World Bank. We turned all of their focus into a collaborative effort to solve the major problems with the database system as a whole, as it was elucidated by 22 trillion lines of code spread amongst 4 million different projects. And then we built a big Obeya. We had the different focuses for the different projects, and everyone every day was working on the same stuff, incredibly focused. In 3 weeks, we took away something that literally could have killed the company. And after that, the throughput of the company as a whole shot through the roof because that massive bottleneck was gone. But it was really hard to get them to agree to that because they were so focused on releasing new features and not focused on actual professional service provision.
Wow. Great example. Is collaboration building a collaborative system, are they resilient or are they delicate?
Well, so the collaborative system itself, if it is visualized and if there are expectations that you will engage in continuous improvement, if you are not engaging in continuous improvement, you are not a professional. So
Well, that's
getting the team.
that's a quote in its own right.
It is a quote in its own right. I try and say it as much as I can. It is pithy and bitchy, and it is one of my biggest punch in the snoot quotes. And but the thing is it's like, my thing is I look back at say this all the time. I look back at Herbie Hancock, who is in his 80s and still practices the piano every day. And he's the best keyboardist in the history of things with keys. And he still practices every day because he knows he can get better. And we don't. Software developers especially don't practice things. We go out of our way not to improve. And we treat improvement tasks like they're annoyances and extra work, as opposed to the work that enables us to actually write code.
Is that because we see them as extra work, or how we're remunerated sees that as extra work?
I know almost no software teams that are dying to do continuous improvement. But I do know that every time I work with a software team that goes through a right environment exercise and asks themselves specifically, how does our work flow? Where do things fall apart? And what do we actually want as professionals? They invariably build their own continuous improvement regimen because they have the context to understand why it's necessary. The rhetoric that we've been given, whether it's from Jeff Sutherland's hyper productivity quip or from other areas of productivity, is we see productivity as the release of new features. And we see extra work as either improvement or the fixing of technical debt. And no, that's not the way it's supposed to be.
True.
But that's just the way that it works out.
Jim, you said you wrote the majority of the collaboration equation 5 years ago, and it's 2022. Why is it time for the book to appear now?
Let's just say that the appropriate time for this book would have been 2015 and leave it at that. That the anti-collaborative political environment that we have found ourselves in and social media environment that we found ourselves in over the last several years has been very, very painful to live through. The reason that the book had the gap was because, honestly, I wanted to go through those experiences at Turner. So Peter Davern is the CEO at Turner, and he is a ridiculously effective CEO. And sometimes he gets cranky and sometimes he yells because he's a human being. He's not like the perfect God CEO. But one of the things that he does is he has faith in the people at Turner Construction to do the right thing. And that's weird. That is unfortunately not normal. So when I got there and I was like, Peter Davern gives agency to everybody in the company. In turn, Pat and Charlie Murphy in New York provide that same agency to the people who work for them, the GMs under them, that blah, 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 all through the chain. I really needed to see both the blessings and the blemishes on that system before I could finish this book. Then when we got into COVID, started writing the book in earnest, did that for about 9 months. And then I got an editor, and my editor has been wonderfully horrific to work with. And so the good news is the book is almost done, but it's very different from the book that I first wrote in Hawaii, 5 or 6 years ago. Very different.
How critical is agency in creating a collaborative environment?
A collaborative environment is agency. A collaborative environment is psychological safety. So our worry about agency, our worries about psychological safety are failure demand. So we can't add agency or psychological safety into an anti-collaborative environment, because agency and psychological safety are both the ability of a professional to act with confidence, to get the information they need when they need it to be able to act with confidence. And the only thing that acting with confidence is agency and psychological safety. And I like using that term because it lets us know that we're not going for a thing. We're not going for agency or psychological safety. We're going for the ability of a professional to act with confidence. And if we don't do that, it means that we're underwriting them not being able to act with confidence. And who the hell wants to spend $150,000 on a person that can't act with confidence?
Yeah, well, we seem to manufacture that environment. So obviously a lot of people do. They just don't know that that's what they're doing. When is the book due out?
August. August. I'm crossing all the fingers I have.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, that's fair. Okay, cool. Excellent. Jim, if you woke up tomorrow morning, someone handed you your caffeinated beverage of choice and said that, and a magic wand to go along with that, and said you could solve any two problems impacting collaboration, what would those two things be and why?
I want people to be compassionate, just across the board. So when I was first asked by Charlie Whitney, who's a general manager and senior vice president at Turner, he's like, what does a good leader need to do? I said, the good leader needs to give a damn. It was construction, so it was a little more scatological than that. But
sure.
You just have to care about the people and the quality, and then demonstrate that caring. And I would just like people across the board just to do that one thing, is to recognize when you as a person are so overloaded that you are withdrawing, you are becoming cranky, and you are becoming the problem. And that other people need your help. And that would be the one thing that I would try to get, just again across the board, in politics, advertising, social media, hockey. I would like people to actually just start giving a damn and complain less, act more.
Cool. Jim, this has been fantastic. Jim Benson, author of the soon to be published new book, The Collaboration Equation. I think, Jim, how would people continue the conversation? How would they find out what you're up to, things about you?
Okay. So there's a couple of ways that one could do this. I have become much less good at social media. There is a modusinstitute.com, Modus, M-O-D-U-S, Institute, which is where we have our online classes and also a blog that we have been quite prolific at as of late, and a YouTube channel that goes along with that. The other thing, of course, is to remind people that the book Personal Kanban is still out there and is also a great gateway into learning how to manage your own work and to work with other people more humanely.
Well, and one of my favorites, Why Limit WIP? So, yeah. Jim, it's been absolutely marvelous. Anything else that you'd like to promote before we go?
Well, just the Personal Kanban, the Modus Institute stuff. If you go on the site now, there's a little pop-up with a coupon code for the subscriptions. When you come on to Modus Institute, you not only get to talk all you want with Tony Ann, DiMaria, and myself, but also the hundreds of other people that are there as part of the community who are all interested in being change agents, taking advantage of the lean and agile tools that we've been given, but applying them in a more humane, adult, and responsible way.
Jim, conversations with you are always marvelous. Thank you very much for spending time with the Software, Process, and SPaMCAST listeners.
It's always good to be here, Tom.
In Reread Saturday News, we are taking the week off on our reread of Coaching Agile Teams by Alyssa Adkins. I was traveling to Nashville for Agile 2022. By the way, let me know if you're here. I'd love to connect. Next week, we'll be back on track, but in the interim, remember to buy a copy of Coaching Agile Teams by Alyssa Adkins and read along. Links to the first 3 increments in our reread in the show notes. In the next Software Process and Measurement Cast, we will map our basic flow metrics palette to a simple organizational hierarchy. Some metrics tell us where we were, some tell us where we're going. This essay reflects work that Jeremy Willits and I are exploring and wish to share. We also will have a visit from Jeremy Barrio, who brings his QA corner to the Software Process and Measurement Cast. By the way, Jeremy Barrio will also be at Agile 2022. We look forward connecting with the Software Process and Measurement Cast listeners and people who just want to be. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?